Mum died when I was 15. I had a dad and 3 sisters, 9, 12, and 15 years older than me. They abandoned me, convinced me I was the problem, and blamed me for the breakup of the family. One sister, Debbie, decided with 2 other sisters to divide Mum's ashes into 4 last weekend, since they had been sitting in a temporary urn in a garage for 25 years. 4 days later, Debbie and I spent 3 hours together having brunch, a swim, and chilling at home. Once she was ready to leave, car running, everything packed away, she approached me and said she was going to give me some of Mum's ashes as a Christmas present. But she ran through the idea with her work colleagues and was told it was a terrible idea and extremely messed up. So instead, she told me she would give me 1/4 of Mum's ashes in a plastic baggie instead. She then jumped in the car and drove away. I called Debbie later that night and expressed that I was hurt. She brought this up at the time she did, and that I had no opportunity to respond or process this information before heading back to work. She responded aggressively, telling me I should be thankful for her thoughtful gesture, labeling me as a victim and abusive for sharing my feelings about the situation. So Reddit, am I the idiot for communicating my hurt and disappointment? How would you react? Extra info, and fair warning, if you thought the ashes story was fake, take a deep breath and read on. Why am I blamed for breaking up the family? Dad had a new girlfriend immediately after Mum died of a brain tumor. She was sick for just under 1 year. He would leave me at home for days alone, but tell me he would be popping out for some milk and to expect him back soon. Even though I had sisters in their 20s and 30s who were stable and had their own homes, they were not around, they didn't call, we didn't have a relationship. I was sent to live with my 5 cousins in a toxic religious family with an alcoholic uncle. Our extended family lived in the same city, and every year it was expected we attend family gatherings during holidays, even after Mum died. Even though toxic things happened, our cousins, aunts, and uncles continued to meet annually. There have been years where every single one of my sisters has been no contact with another, or with Dad. It constantly changes. After a number of years, I started to see what had happened with our family after Mum died was not normal. I was constantly putting everyone else before me, above me. There was nothing too big to ask of me. I told myself I was wrong in every scenario because that was easier than trying to prove my case and getting berated for it. I tried to minimize my feelings as much as possible because any feelings or emotions I showed, my eldest sister labeled as me being difficult or abusive, even when I wasn't. When I started standing up for myself and asserting my boundaries, my world crumbled. I couldn't say to any sister, "What you did was hurtful," because they hear you are a psychopath and everything about you is wrong. It is, though, they cannot separate self from behavior. I have been relentlessly attacked over the past 2 years in particular for calling out mistreatment and labeling their behavior. I am now the common enemy. I began therapy and have had the same psychologist for 4 years. Said psychologist has met the sister who gifted me the ashes and has repeatedly warned me against maintaining contact with my family. I hear this echoed in the comments. I want to say, it is not easy believing in yourself when you have grown up in my family, and especially so when everyone is 10 years older. It has taken me years to understand how toxic it has been, and to be honest, I still don't think I totally get it. I've wanted to make it work, to be a part of my family, to just be civil. Second update, I appreciate every single comment. Thank you for showing me your general insight, opinions, and personal experiences. Believe me when I say, these words have helped me immensely. I will continue to remind myself of my worth and to instill strong boundaries in the future. Thank you. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. OP, you are not the problem in this situation. Your sister is inappropriate and unhinged. I am sorry you lost your mom so young. Don't feel bad keeping your distance until the mental issues of your siblings have been resolved. They seem to have scapegoated you, rather than process their grief. And you were the youngest. Seriously not okay. Not the idiot. Comment 2. OP, your sister was told giving ashes was messed up, so she decided to give you bones. You used wood, so I'm asking if it's still intended as a Christmas gift. OP, is your sister a serial unalived? Because that whole thought process has some serial unalived vibes. Not the idiot. Now for the update. Hey everyone, I'm back with an update. And wow, things have taken some turns. Thanks for all the support and advice you've given me. It's been a rough few months, and I've got quite the story to tell. So, after the whole ashes incident with Debbie, I took some time to reflect on my relationship with my family. I've been in therapy for a while, and my psychologist has been a lifesaver. They've seen firsthand how my sisters treat me and have always been cautious about me maintaining contact with them. A month after the Ashes incident, my eldest sister, who's always been the one to label me as difficult, reached out. She wanted to clear the air and invited me over for dinner. I was hesitant, but thought maybe, just maybe, this was a step towards reconciliation. I went, and it was okay. We talked, mostly small talk, but it felt like she was trying. When I left, she hugged me and whispered that she was sorry for everything. I was stunned. It felt like a breakthrough. But then, 2 weeks later, I found out through my cousin that my sister was telling everyone that I had apologized to her for being such a problem in the family. I was floored. I hadn't apologized because I hadn't done anything wrong. It was a complete fabrication. I confronted her, and she blew up at me, accusing me of twisting her words and being ungrateful for her olive branch. Meanwhile, my other 2 sisters were still not talking to me or each other. The family dynamic was as fractured as ever. Dad was still with his girlfriend, and they seemed to be in their own world, oblivious to the chaos among his daughters. Then, about a month ago, I got a call from Debbie. She was crying, saying she needed to talk to me urgently. I met her at a cafe, and she confessed that she had been seeing someone behind her husband's back. It was a shock, to say the least. She was always the moral compass of the family, or so she liked to portray herself. She begged me not to tell anyone, saying it was a moment of weakness and it was over now. I was torn. I didn't condone what she did, but I also didn't want to be the one to cause more pain in the family. I kept her secret, but it weighed on me. It felt like I was complicit in her deceit. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my second eldest sister reached out to me. She had been the most distant, rarely involving herself in family drama. She asked to meet, and I agreed, curious about her sudden interest in reconnecting. We met at a park, and she got straight to the point. She had been diagnosed with a chronic illness and was scared. She didn't want to be alone, and she didn't trust our other sisters to support her. She asked if I could be there for her. I was taken aback by her vulnerability. Despite everything, she was still my sister, and I couldn't turn my back on her. So, I've been helping her with doctor's appointments and just being there to talk. It's been strange, building this new relationship with her, while the rest of my family relationships are so strained. Now, for the juicy twist. Last week, I was at my sister's place, the one with the chronic illness, when Debbie's husband showed up unannounced. He looked furious. He had found out about Debbie's affair, but not from me. It turns out the person Debbie had the affair with was my eldest sister's husband. Yes, you read that right. My sister's worlds collided in the worst possible way. Debbie's husband was demanding answers, and my sister with the illness was caught in the middle, just as shocked as I was. The confrontation was intense, with accusations flying and tears streaming. Debbie's husband left in a rage, and my sister broke down. She felt betrayed by Debbie and disgusted by our eldest sister. I left feeling like I was in a soap opera. My family, already a mess, had just imploded. I'm still processing everything that's happened. It's clear now more than ever that my family is far from normal, and the dysfunction runs deep. Husband's ex upgrades our suite, so I cancel it and he begs. Our baby's future hangs by a thread as I uncover his lies. I am 35 years old, female, and my husband is 36 years old, male. We have been married for 5 years and together for 8. We will be having our first baby in 3 months and decided to take a baby moon to a resort spa in Florida. We booked a basic room under my husband's name. Upon check-in, the attendant said that we had been upgraded to the presidential suite with full concierge service and complimentary spa treatments. We thought this was very strange. The attendant assured us that we would only be charged our original rate. We asked who did it so we could thank them, thinking it was a family member or a close friend. The attendant said sometimes it happens for special occasions. On the reservation, it asked for the reason for the visit, and we said we were having a baby. We were still a bit skeptical, but accepted the answer. The next day, as we came back from the beach, there was a different attendant. We went over to just double-check about our room. She confirmed what the previous one said about the rate. I asked, "Does this happen often?" And she said, "No. They might get a free meal or one special spa service, but nothing like you all have." When we inquired about how we got this, she stated that this can only be approved by the senior general manager and said the name of my husband's ex-girlfriend. We were both shocked, as he has not spoken to her in like 9 years. They had a very intense relationship, and I know he loved her in a very special way, but distance ended it. Otherwise, they would still be together. My husband was visibly thrown off by her name, and was distracted the rest of the day. I guess I knew he loved her, but seeing his reaction to this gesture had me worried. The next day, he apologized and said that he was moved by what she did and was just wondering about how her life is now and if she is happy. I told him I wanted to switch back to the room we booked if he was going to be thinking of her the whole time. He said he wasn't and wanted me to enjoy this gift despite how we got it. I explained that I was no longer comfortable since this was supposed to be about us and our new baby, and now it is about her. He felt I was being unreasonable, and switching rooms wasn't going to change anything. I insisted, and we got them to change it back. Later, I told my mom, sister, and friends. They all thought I overreacted and should have stayed in the room. At first, I thought I did the right thing, but now I'm not so sure. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you're the jerk. It is a nice gesture. It'd be one thing to be uncomfortable if they broke up immediately before you got pregnant. But it ended 10 years ago. He was also open and said he was moved and wondering how she is doing. Which, alright, I wouldn't love that either, but still. This definitely reads more as insecurity versus anything untoward from the ex to hubby. Comment 2, you're the jerk. You took an incredibly kind, and was supposed to be anonymous, gesture and crapped on it. Had you not pushed, neither of you would have known it was her, so it wasn't about her intruding on your weekend. She clearly cared about your husband, and was happy to see him well. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm here to spill all the details of this crazy week. So buckle up, because it's been quite the ride. After the whole room upgrade fiasco, things got even more intense. My husband and I had a long talk about boundaries and our relationship. He reassured me that his past with his ex-girlfriend was just that, the past. He explained that their relationship had been passionate, but ultimately unsustainable. They had shared dreams of traveling the world together, but when it came down to making long-term commitments, they realized they wanted different things in life. Despite the reassurances, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. 2 days after we switched back to our original room, we bumped into the senior general manager herself. She was as surprised to see us as we were to see her. It turns out she had been keeping tabs on my husband through mutual friends and had heard about our baby. In a moment of nostalgia, she decided to give us the upgrade as a final gesture of goodwill. The confrontation was tense. My husband was polite but distant, while I was a mix of grateful and suspicious. She apologized if her gift had caused any discomfort, and wished us well with our new family. It was a jaw-dropping moment, to say the least. Back in our room, my husband and I had another heart-to-heart. He opened up about his past with her, how they had met during a summer job at a local bookstore, bonding over their love for mystery novels. He told me about the time they got caught in a rainstorm and took shelter in an old gazebo where they shared their first kiss. It was clear that he cherished those memories, but he also made it clear that what we have is much deeper and real. The next day, we decided to make the most of our baby moon. We went on a sunset cruise organized by the resort, which was absolutely breathtaking. As we watched the sky turn from blue to shades of orange and pink, my husband took my hand and promised that our future together would be full of moments just as beautiful as this one. But the surprises weren't over yet. On the 4th day of our stay, we returned to our room to find a gift basket with an apology note from the ex-girlfriend. She had included some baby clothes, a few mystery novels for old time's sake, and a spa voucher for me. It was a kind gesture, and I could tell it was her way of closing that chapter of her life. My husband and I spent the rest of our trip reconnecting. We talked about our hopes and fears for parenthood, our dreams for our child, and the adventures we wanted to share as a family. We even started reading one of the mystery novels together, laughing at the cheesy dialogue and trying to guess who the culprit was before the final reveal. On our last night, we had dinner at the resort's fanciest restaurant. The staff treated us like royalty, and the food was out of this world. We toasted to our future, to forgiveness, and to new beginnings. It was a perfect end to a trip that had started with so much uncertainty. As we packed our bags to leave, my husband pulled out a small, wrapped box. Inside was a beautiful necklace with a pendant in the shape of a book, a nod to our shared love for reading and to the new chapter we were starting as parents. It was the most thoughtful gift, and it reminded me that no matter what unexpected turns life might take, we were in this together. Husband rants about ex's pregnancy, revealing his toxic mindset. I shut it down. Our home won't harbor hate. He's clueless that his past actions. I, 35-year-old female, have a husband, 41 years old, and two wonderful bonus kids, 12-year-old female and 14-year-old male. My husband has 50-50 custody with his ex-wife Jane, 40 years old. Some background. My husband and his ex divorced a little over 10 years ago. It was as amicable as these things can be, and they've worked hard to have a good, cooperative parenting relationship. Both would describe the other as a friend. I met my husband 6 years ago, and we married 4.5 years ago. His ex and their kids welcomed me with open arms. When his ex met and then married her now wife Zara, 32-year-old female, the same was true in reverse. Our two households combine for birthdays and major holidays, and generally at least one parent from each household is present for school plays, sports matches, etc. Unless the kids ask for time with just mum and dad, in which case Zara and I bow out. I've always felt very fortunate that our families got along so well. I genuinely like Jane and Zara, and honestly Zara is kind of badass. She's a doctor and worked with MSF and is also widely travelled. She has amazing stories to tell and is just a really warm human being. Now the issue. Jane and Zara recently announced Zara is pregnant. Obviously via sperm donor. The kids seem excited and I'm happy for Jane and Zara. My husband, on the other hand, has been off since the announcement. I've tried to get him to talk about what was bothering him, but he can't articulate it. I asked if he wanted to speak to a family therapist. We saw one before we married, just to help ease the transition to a blended family. But he didn't like the idea. I've started to lose my patience with him, because from what he has said, his issue with Zara's pregnancy seems rooted in homophobia, misogyny, racism. Yesterday, I was making dinner, and he again started grumbling about how Zara's pregnancy wasn't right, how he should have been consulted, how he didn't understand why they needed to have another kid when we already have two amazing kids, etc. Then he told me we should try to have a baby as well. I shut that down. I have no desire to be pregnant, and never have. Then he suggested adoption. I asked where all this was coming from, as we'd always agreed no more kids for us. He said, this whole thing is going to end in tears, and that using a sperm donor to get pregnant is ridiculous. I was conscious of the kids in the other room and told him to stop before the kids heard him. He started getting genuinely cross and said the kids had a right to know what was actually going on, and that he felt like he was in the Twilight Zone and he was the only sane one left. I lost my temper and told him that whatever issues he had with Zara's pregnancy were his problem, that I and the kids were genuinely happy for her and Jane, and that this family had no space for his made-up drama. That made him really cross, and things were tense for the rest of the night. I feel like I should probably apologize for the phrasing, but I don't want to apologize for the sentiment. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. What has his knickers all knotted up? He's married to you. He's not with Jane anymore, and it's not even that the ex-wife is pregnant. It's Zara. He's absolutely throwing homophobia and misogyny out in spades with his disapproval. Thank you for trying to stop this behavior before he escalates. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Why would his ex have to consult with him before having a child with their new spouse? Unless the children from his ex are concerned about having another sibling, I don't see the issue. I'm sure they took that into account though, especially since it was obviously a planned pregnancy. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks, and I've got quite the update for you all. So, after the blowout with my husband, things went from tense to downright icy. He was barely speaking to me, and when he did, it was short and clipped. I was worried about the kids picking up on the tension, but they seemed oblivious, wrapped up in their own worlds of school projects and video games. Then, one evening, my husband came home from work and announced he had scheduled an appointment with the family therapist, the same one we saw before we got married. I was surprised, to say the least, given his previous resistance. I agreed, thinking maybe we could finally get to the bottom of his issues with Zara's pregnancy. The therapy session was enlightening. My husband broke down, revealing that his discomfort wasn't about homophobia or racism at all. It was about his own insecurities. He confessed that he felt replaced and irrelevant now that Jane and Zara were starting their own family. He was scared that the kids would see Zara's child as their real sibling and that he would be pushed to the side. I was floored. I had never considered that angle. I mean, he had always been such a confident guy, the rock of our family. To see him so vulnerable was both heartbreaking and a relief. It explained so much of his recent behavior. We spent the next few days talking a lot, trying to work through his fears. I reassured him that he was an irreplaceable part of the kids' lives and that nothing could change that. Slowly, he started to come around, even expressing some cautious excitement about the new baby. But just when I thought we were getting back on track, Jane dropped a bombshell. She called me up, sounding frantic, and asked to meet for coffee. When we sat down, she was shaking. She told me that she and Zara had been having problems for months, even before the pregnancy. They'd been trying to work through it, but things were just getting worse. I was stunned. They had always seemed like such a solid couple, always laughing and joking at family gatherings. Jane confessed that they'd been putting on a show for the kids, not wanting to worry them. But now, with the baby on the way, she didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I offered her my support, whatever she decided, but inside, I was reeling. This was the last thing our blended family needed. The next week was a blur of whispered phone calls and secret meetings with Jane. She was trying to decide whether to stay with Zara for the sake of the baby, or to end things before it got even more complicated. I felt like I was in the middle of a soap opera, keeping her confidence from my husband and the kids. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my husband came home early from work one day with a strange look on his face. He sat me down and said he had something to tell me. My heart was racing, thinking maybe he knew about Jane and Zara's troubles. But it wasn't that. He told me that he had been doing some thinking and he realized that he wanted to be more involved in Zara's pregnancy. He wanted to be there for her, as a friend and as the stepfather to her child. He said he realized that family isn't just about blood, it's about love and support. I was speechless. This was a complete 180 from where he had been just a few weeks ago. I was proud of him, but also a little skeptical. Could he really change his mindset that quickly? And then he dropped the real twist. He told me that he had been the sperm donor for Zara's pregnancy. He had agreed to it months ago, before they even told us about the baby. He said he wanted to help Jane and Zara have a child that was connected to our family, but he hadn't anticipated how complicated his feelings would become. I was in shock. All this time, the tension, the therapy, the secrets, and he had been the donor? It was a lot to process. I didn't know whether to be angry that he kept it from me, or touched that he had done such a selfless thing. So here we are, 2 weeks later, and our family is in a place I never could have imagined. My husband is trying to navigate his new role in this complicated family dynamic. Jane and Zara are working on their relationship, and I'm just trying to keep up with all the twists and turns. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.